Hey, welcome. This is The Process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is a quick video lesson on a fantasy football diary outline, and I'm going to discuss the parts, at least what I'm thinking going in to 2022. Previously, I've not got into this level of detail, but having my co-owning an old the Science of Fantasy Football website, I feel obligated to at least have a process. And of course, next year I may add or take away things that as I see fit. But this is an opportunity for you to at least get a feel for what I'm thinking about. And I urge you to try to keep a diary and at least jot down some things. I know it's hard to do. People are excited, etc., etc. But I think it's time to get a little bit more formal towards our process and not just just kind of wing it every year. We're trying to learn from our mistakes. We're trying to capitalize on our success and get better. Where are we weak? Where are we strong? I think that should be fairly obvious here, but I'm just trying to formalize it. I've never seen a formal outline for a diary that I know of. I don't know every article that's out there, but at least we'll have one for this site, and you can't say I didn't, invite you to go with me on this. Let's see if it helps. I will certainly will touch on this next spring, winter after the season's over, and we'll just see if there's anything I can draw from this, or was it just a waste of my time? I have no clue. Okay, let's continue. Just one page here. Okay, so this was my outline. I'm going to call it a basic short diary because I really don't know what a long diary would have. But at least, again, it's just the beginning of the process. Okay, so I'm going to try to touch on aspects of what I'm thinking today. This is the end of August 2022, so we'll see what it is I'm thinking. Number one, league rules. Uh, if you do multiple leagues, then of course you need to divide out by Superflex, Dynasty, redrafts, best ball, uh, you know, things that you were doing auction drafts. I don't know how many flexes, how many running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, all these kind of things. Try to summarize the league rules, and you probably want to, if you do multiple leagues, kind of keep them together so you can focus on that type of league. The date of the draft, that may not seem important, but I think if you're drafting in April before the NFL draft, that might be significant. If you're drafting after the draft, say June, July, August, I think the amount of potential knowledge and things are going to be different, but the level of competition may be different in April versus the end of August. So are you better early drafting or late or middle, or maybe you're kind of good across? Maybe you suck late, you should do early. Whatever, you need to kind of figure out where you're successful at. Certainly your draft pick uh, is probably going to tie into the league board and what your plans might have been. This year, my tendency, if I was getting the first couple of picks, I was going running back, and getting kind of above the 6 pick, but say 3 to 6, I was in, since I tied in premium, I remember doing a lot of Kelsey or running back type. And in fact, I probably went with my drafting heavily on running backs this year versus wide receivers. So I may have not done well. We'll find out. But that's kind of what I tended to do. I was certainly mid and late. I remember focusing on rounds 4, 5, and 6 on grabbing what I perceived as valuable wide receivers. And I know people were talking about that's the RB dead zone, but I was figuring out it's the wide receiver value zone. And probably in the first 3 picks or so, I was grabbing a couple of running backs and a tight end kind of scenario there. And if all the good tight ends were gone, I may have even gone early quarterback here on that, and then took the wide receivers. If I waited late for quarterbacks, then of course I will have to group those and see how successful. You definitely want a copy of the league draft board. I think you can probably even copy and drop it into an Excel spreadsheet. Try that. You should be able to do that. There's a lot of how-tos and whatnot. And that, if you do as many drafts as I do, then that might invite you to do pivot tables and things that you can draw a deeper level of information from. So right now this is just a short one, but a long version would be deep pivot tables and, by draft picks, comparing first, second, third, fourth kind of picks. So that's what I envision. I'm not going to do that necessarily this year. I certainly can after the fact if I have a copy of my draft board. I would certainly be curious, am I good at picking, my first pick to be successful, my second picks? Do I drop down in my third and fourth? Where do I need to be careful for myself? Where am I better at or worse at? I would certainly like to know. I've done some cursory diaries in the past. I've got some ideas. Let's just say redrafts are more my strong suit, and Superflex Dynasty are not something that I pursue a lot of, just because I hadn't been successful. Maybe I haven't tried. I don't know. Okay, position numbers. If you have, total positions, how many quarterbacks, tight ends, defenses, kickers, running backs, wide receivers, what was I doing there? What was I thinking? Okay, I can tell you that this year, based on my thinking and looking at past success and failures, I elected to do one quarterback and one tight end if I could, and just try to grab them off the board. So that does put me in a bind if there's an injury, but that's, that's what I did this year. Previous years, I've drafted multiple quarterbacks and tight ends, and I started thinking maybe I should be grabbing more wide receivers and running backs. So I changed it up. It's, changing variables a little bit. In an experiment, you should manipulate variables. Handcuffs. Did I take handcuffs with certain running backs or wide receivers, etc.? Yes or no? If so, what did I do? that kind of thing. Did I take rookies? Did I take them early, middle, late? What did I take there? When, where? And again, that could get back to date of the draft too. So that could be some synergy there between that. What was my plan going in? I already kind of described one quarterback, one tight end. I like the idea of 4, 5, and 6 rounds picking wide receivers and trying to go heavy into running backs and maybe a tight end or a quarterback early. That was I didn't do that for every draft. I did 50 something drafts, but some of them, I'd say a bunch I did. I haven't counted, but I suspect at least half of my 50 drafts I went that way. What's the analysis? My initial, what was my feelings, right? So, and some people argue that, you're a scientist, what's feelings? Well, there's enough psychological analysis to maybe think, when you feel good or bad, maybe there's something that you're missing, and this is something is you're detecting something. It may not, it may be complete BS. Looking at my analysis, I might even put a few sentences. Now I felt very strong about this, or I felt average, or I felt like this was a poor draft. Kind of chunk it like that. Kind of good, middle, average, bad. Something that you can kind of put it into categories later. Okay. Okay, so during the season, what's my success at lineups? I tend to be about somewhere above 80% success on lineups. So I usually hit most of my lineup marks. Sometimes I'm bad on that, but I would like to fine tune that a little bit to kind of see, is there something I'm missing? Am I listening too much podcast and Twitter? Is that influencing me too much? I would like to know here. So at the end of the season, a lot of things are going to happen, right? So postseason, well, I think, did you win or not? What's my conclusion? Boy, I really lost this one. Did my plan, my pre-draft plan, how did that work out for me? How my early, middle, and say late choices? Again, unless you're getting pick by pick, and that would be more of a long form draft, just kind of, did really good early, but late I really sucked, or whatever it is. I really nailed the tight ends this year, or I really nailed the wide receiver. It would be nice to know kind of what, in fact, you happened here. What players did I have that survived the whole season? That probably says something about injuries. Certainly you need to put that in, but also how good my draft was. If when I've done some work previously, I tend to be about 60% of players I draft tend to be on my team at the end of the season, for good or for bad. That doesn't mean that, it's good or bad, just that's kind of where it ends up. So it would be nice to figure out the ones that stayed. Did most of my running backs hang on? Did I have to get rid of all my running backs? Was there injuries? Was there something surprising, like, well, a sleeper? I really took a last minute pick on this one that really worked, or it really didn't. Or I really was sucky at figuring out the role of my players, right? I took some Marlon Mack this year Probably one of my last picks, 19 or 20th pick in a 20 round, just as a roll of the dice, and that may not have been a good thing, but I would like to know that. Uh, of the say the 40% players on average I ended up picking up, was I good? Did I have success with those? Did I spot the hot players? Or was I sucky and just kept having to churn because I either was nothing there or I wasn't good? I would like to know that. And also, if you didn't win the league or say come in second, or something like that, I think you need to look at the winners. What was their draft? Did they just nail it, like 80, 90% of what they drafted still there? Did they take running backs early? Did they take wide receivers? Did they crush the waiver wire? Did they, if you're in a trading league, did they, crush trades or not? How do you stack up with the winners if you didn't win? What did they do? What insight can you get there? A long form would probably be looking at the bottom teams as well to see what didn't work that year. So you can probably get a sense of some ideas I have for a long diary. But right now, this is a lot of work here. And, we all tend to be probably lazier than we should, certainly. Um, uh, I think I fool myself that my memory's better than it probably is, and this is a way to formalize the process. So this is my thinking. This is a beginning. This may be too much. Then, I would probably at least try to do some of this. And again, do a diary on the diary. Like, Bush, I don't have time for all this. I only did the draft board. If that works for you, great. But, it's at least you see my thinking and you can add or take away. That's all, this doesn't imply this is the plan. But I hadn't seen another plan. So let's call it the plan until somebody gets better. And like I said, I can see a longer form. I got that. My second pick, I crush in all 50 drafts. That would be nice to know, wouldn't it? Or my first 3 picks, I'm ultimate at that. Okay? I really need to pay attention 4, 5, and 6 then if I'm not so good. What's going on that's causing me some losses there. I want to figure that out. So I think this is a way to do it. It's beginnings, probably too much. I got that, but you can screenshot this and print it and kind of make little notes and see if it works out. See where you're at. I hope it works for you. Good luck. Listen to our podcast season by, weekly stuff will be coming. Suspect waiver wires, volume, game scripts, uncertainty levels. Lots of, fun stuff is coming. So hang back. Me and D. Mike are going to try to help you crush 2022. Okay, thanks for listening. Get that diary. Get to work, folks.